Good evening, welcome along. If you've just joined me, it's Yasmeen here with you on BBC Three Counties Radio. Now, a man from Stevenage who struggled with a severe stutter for decades has overcome his demons and wants to inspire others to do the same. Rama Siva has interviewed 20 leaders and entrepreneurs to write a book aimed at inspiring people to break free of their self-imposed limitations and live life to the full. And I'm delighted to say he joins me in the studio now. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you, Jasmine.
So, first of all, how did you develop a stutter? How old were you?
My parents told me that I was about 3 to 4 years old, and when I started to speak, I stumbled over my words. And gradually, over time, I developed a stuttering habit.
Right.
This led to me being fearful of speaking in public, and when going to primary school, I remember quite clearly in class when I was there trying to read out aloud, because when you're at that age, expect you to read out loud, and I struggled to say a single word, and they sent me to speech therapy. So I went to speech therapy within the primary school in Stevenage, and then afterwards I went to speech therapy at the hospital where they had speech therapists.
So the treatment started quite early on?
Yeah, I would say it started around 7 or 8 years old when I was struggling to speak.
Were you very aware of it? Because it must have felt like a lot of pressure at that age when, as you said, you start reading out in class, everything is about stories at that age, isn't it? And telling a story or being told a story. And it must have felt like a lot of pressure.
Yes, without a doubt. I felt really uncomfortable speaking. And as a child, it was quite okay because I would just stutter and stumble away. But as a teenager, my life was very difficult in terms of not making any good close friends. I wasn't able to share my experiences with them because it's very important to speak, to communicate your feelings, your thoughts, and what you have done.
And how were other teenagers towards you? Because, as you said, it's very important for you to be able, to be able to get their emotions across, their feelings, what's happened to them, all of that. But was there also a barrier because the others of your age didn't have the patience?
Yes, I found that I had 1 or 2 close, good friends who were patient and they were kind towards me. But to be honest, I wasn't comfortable in my own skin to be able to express what I thought.
Were you teased?
Yes, I was, but I think in most schools, people are teased and people are bullied, unfortunately. And
I use the word teased, but were you bullied? Was it more like bullying?
I wouldn't say it's bullying, but I was teased and I was made to feel uncomfortable and I was made to feel lonely.
That must have been hard.
It was very hard as a teenager, but fortunately I managed to get enough grades to pass and I went to university. So
you weren't put off by, because it sounds like you felt quite isolated at that age and you hadn't conquered your stutter yet, I imagine, at that age. But you still were determined to kind of carry on and it didn't put you off going to university.
I think my parents expected me to go to university. Being of Asian background, studies is very important.
Yeah.
And consequently, I was pushed and I managed to get into the foundation year of my degree. And the amazing part was when I got to the first day of this foundation degree at Oaklands College in Wellington City, I met Colin, and Colin was my form tutor. Colin had a severe stutter. He stuttered even more than I did. The reason why he stuttered more than I did was because I went to a 2-week intensive course at List Hospital. And that really helped me to speak every day. While going to Wellington City, I would play a tape about the story of the dog and the gerbil make very good pets.
Right.
And I would say this out aloud using the technique I had learned on the speech therapy course.
So it was an intensive course, and it helped you?
Yes, I was there for 2 weeks, and I had to stay there overnight. I went home on the weekend, and it really helped me. That was the first time that I was able to speak to some extent.
Wow.
Without feeling petrified.
How was that? How did that feel, that moment when you went home? Because for your family, that must have been a surprise as well.
It felt good. It felt really good, and I was very happy with myself. I really enjoyed the first year at Oaklands College, and then I did well, and I got into the first year of uni at Hertfordshire University, where I did economics and statistics. But the first year was very challenging because Colin wasn't there. I didn't have the comfort zone of him having a stutter and me being there with thousands of students.
So Colin was really important for you?
Yes. In fact, I did try to contact Colin last week because while I was recounting my experiences, I remembered Colin, and I wanted to call up the college and thank him. But I think he's retired, or they haven't been able to find him.
Well, perhaps you never know. He might be listening. There's always a chance.
Yes, I would love to say thank you very much to Colin, because at that moment in my life, having a teacher who stuttered was comforting to me. So it helped me to be myself and make good friends and enjoy the life at the college.
So you get to university and you've come a long way because you've done this course.
Yeah.
You're a young man. You suddenly feel like you can do something because you've done this course. You're getting somewhere. You're able to communicate for the first time. But as you say, you're suddenly surrounded by thousands of people. Yeah. But you just jumped in and did it.
Yeah. So I was 19 at the Hatfield campus in Hertfordshire. And for me, going to university was like going to the primary school. So I was a 19-year-old boy, and I felt like a 5-year-old, 6-year-old boy going into primary school.
Because you could speak for the first time?
No, because I felt the fear again, because Colin wasn't there. I really, looking back on my time at the college, I really felt that I was able to conquer or enjoy my life because Colin was there, and I could see that he got on with his life even though he had a severe stutter.
And sometimes it takes that, doesn't it, to see yourself reflected in someone?
Yes, true. And so my first year wasn't good at all. I was depressed, and I listened to Lifehouse Family, and I was getting very depressed. And to this day, I hate Lifehouse Family. I really don't like the group, don't like their music. Yeah. I'm so sorry.
Because it reminds you of that time.
It reminds me of the time. And every time it's on, I switch off the radio.
Fair enough. We won't play any Lighthouse Family tonight. It's fine. Don't worry. It's definitely not on the list.
Great.
So how did you overcome that moment there when you're at university and it should be a shining time, but Colin isn't there? It's a struggle. How did you overcome that?
So I went to a psychologist at the university. I went to about 3 sessions. And for some reason, she was winding me up. I felt really irritated by her. And then I thought to myself, I'm going to show you that I'm going to make something of my life. And I didn't go back. And I passed the first year. Second year, I made some good friends.
Isn't it funny because they say therapy works? And it did for you in kind of the opposite way, because it spurred you on to despite not liking the therapist, to go and succeed.
Yes. I think I wanted to add that she may have not known it, but she did help me. Yeah. Maybe she did it on purpose to try and get me going.
Who knows? But it worked.
And it worked, yes. So while I was at university, I found it very difficult to meet girls. I found approaching girls very, very intimidating, and I just couldn't do it. So, but I saw this girl, and I thought to myself, if I didn't speak to her, I probably would regret it for the rest of my life. So I plucked up my courage and I actually managed to go up and speak to her. Her name is Sita, and she was very kind, and we were friends or acquaintances back then, but nothing more.
Were you on the same course, or she was just a fellow student?
She was a fellow student at university in the same time. But that really didn't help me, because as much as I was struggling with my speech, I didn't feel that I was attractive enough for the opposite sex. I felt that I wasn't good enough. I felt that I wasn't worthy of someone.
What made you feel unworthy?
I think it's the years of being alone. It's the years of having self-doubt. Just a voice in the head that just keeps on talking, that keeps on putting negative thoughts continuously. But anyway, I passed the second year, so I was quite happy with that. Remarkably well. I did quite well.
And was that when you went to speak to her?
That was a second year, yes. So I spoke to her during the second year.
What happened?
I struggled a lot, but yeah, so...
But you went over and you talked to her?
Yeah, I did, yeah. So I was quite happy with that, but unfortunately I wasn't in the right mindset to be able to continue or to be able to ask her out or... Yeah, so...
But it was still a big step for you to go and talk to her?
Yeah, I think so too.
And then what happened?
So I managed to pass, and I went into the third year of university. And there I met a girl, Zina. Zina was a very good friend of mine. We studied together, and we shared some good times as friends. And later on, I had a crush on her, but for some reason, I never told her. And
maybe you didn't want to worried about losing the friendship.
Yes, I guess so. At some level, I guess so. But looking back at my life, I guess I just wish I had. So I somehow thought I would meet her again. And as fate happened, I did try to find her a few years later. And unfortunately, she passed away in a car accident. So that really shook me. It took me a while to recover. But however, that was a turning point in my life, because it made me think, if I don't do something about my personal life, I will never get married, I will never have children, I will never do the things that I want to do in my life. And that really changed my life.
So what was the next step you took?
So after university, I managed to get a job as a data entry clerk at the Forensic Science Service in Lambeth, London. I couldn't get a permanent job because my stutter was so terrible.
So you were still really struggling at that point?
Yes, for sure. Despite the course when I was 18, despite the Oaklands College year, despite Colin, I was struggling. I was back to where I was before the course. And it was really, really bad. However, I managed to get a job as a temp at the FSS in London. And I stayed there for 3 months. And while I was there, I had a chance encounter with a guy called Matthew. Matthew is from London, and he was working there for a while. And he comes in and he shares a story about, in the basement of number 10 Downing Street, there's a computer suite. And then I thought to myself, wouldn't it be wonderful if I worked there? Didn't give it a second thought. It just slipped my mind again.
It just appealed to you, the idea?
Yeah, definitely did. And so I left that job because it was boring. I was doing data entry. I had no speaking opportunities. Thankfully, it was just typing on the computer. So I got a job in IT in Watford, and I stayed there for a couple of years. And in September 2000, I saw... No, actually, let me recount it properly. So I wrote off 2 letters, one to number 10 Downing Street and one to the Foreign Office, because those were my dream jobs. And I felt that if I could get those jobs, my life would be complete. I would have achieved my life's ambition. So number 10 wrote back to me and said that the Cabinet Office deal with the personnel issues of number 10 employees. And the Cabinet Office replied to me saying that there were no job vacancies at that time. So this was in July, August 2000. I saw a job advert in Computer Weekly in September 2000. And there, desktop support analyst, Cabinet Office. The pay wasn't appealing at all. But
the job was.
But the job was. And so
is that where you ended up?
Yeah. So I sent off for the application form. At that time, it was only a 2-sided A4 page application form. So very easy to fill. So I left that application form on my desk because the pay was really atrocious. And I thought, can I really be bothered to move from one job to another job for this pay? And so I left it. The night before it was supposed to be completed or sent by, I looked at it and thought, why not let me fill it out? So I filled it out and I sent it, and I got an interview at number 10 Downing Street. So I went in, knocked on the door. It was an amazing feeling going in, and I never thought I would get the job. So I went in, had a good look around, took in all the atmosphere. Yeah, so Wendell Lyle and Philip were the managers doing the interview there. They liked me and they gave me the job. So I started in April 2001. And I was there for 7 years.
So from there, from getting in, from that first knock on the door at number 10, and managing to get through an interview and get a job, if not with dream pay, but with a dream environment, we go from there. Tell me how you then come to writing this book, which I've got in my hand here, called Rich Thinking, Escape the 9 to 5 and Live Your Dream Life. Because I can begin to see that that's what you were starting to do. You may not have escaped the 9 to 5, but you had a vision of, I want to work there.
Yes.
And it worked.
Yes, that's true. So what happened was, when I joined the Prime Minister's office, my speech was atrocious. I couldn't really speak, or I could speak, but I would struggle. Any stutterer can speak. If you watch the King's speech, Colin Firth portrayed a stutterer very well. He can speak, but it's a feelings of how you feel when you actually speak. And for me, I felt very, very small. I wasn't comfortable at all. So fortunately, I had heard about the Maguire program, which is a speech program that Gareth Gates has been on. I went on the program, paid for by the office, which I'm eternally grateful, because it was very expensive. £700 at that time was a lot of money for me. And fortunately, they allowed me to go. And coming back from the course, I was a changed guy, because the course gives you the confidence to be able to speak. It gives you the first steps to believe in yourself that you can speak. After 2.5 days of breathing like this and really speaking with a deep and breathy tone and really focusing on your speech, you are asked to go out and make 100 contacts in the streets of Bournemouth.
Right.
Because that was my first course in August 2001. So I went and did 100 contacts, just asking people what the time is.
Saying hi.
Where is McDonald's is. Exactly.
Yeah.
Saying hi, how are you? And disclosures is when you go up to people and you explain to people that you are a recovering stammerer, working on your speech, and you really exaggerate the technique so that they know that you are serious and you're not just taking the mickey, because some people do.
But what reaction did you get from people in the street?
Wonderful, wonderful. My first course was amazing. It transformed my life, like I said. So I did a public speech. I went on a soapbox in the Bournemouth town centre for the first time in my life. I got up and said my name, Rama Siva, and I couldn't say my name for the previous 25 years.
How did it feel, that moment?
It felt really exhilarating. I felt really proud of myself. And thinking back, yes, I've come very far from that day. So thanks to the Maguire program, I got my first belief in me that I can speak. But however, you may have a technique, but until you actually work at yourself, until you actually expand your comfort zones, until you go on radio, go on TV, until you go and do interviews for newspapers.
Push yourself.
Push yourself, exactly. You won't move the level of your speaking confidence. So I wrote the book after I interviewed 20 entrepreneurs. One of them was Gary McEwen from Stevenage, who is the founder and CEO of Trusted Trader. Mm-hmm. He's a really amazing, humble guy. He still lives in the same house that he had before he started Trusted Trader. And he was very kind to share with me his insights on how he did business. One small thing he shared with me, he wanted an office, but he didn't want to pay a lot for the rent. So he went off to Southgate House in Stevenage, and there he spoke to the security guard to find out if there are any cheap lettings going. And he found that one tenant was looking for someone as they were in financial difficulty. So he approached them directly, the tenant, and he got a discount, a very good rate on his office. So the two of them started Trusted Trader.
Good evening, welcome along. If you've just joined me, it's Yasmeen here with you on BBC Three Counties Radio. Now, a man from Stevenage who struggled with a severe stutter for decades has overcome his demons and wants to inspire Good evening, welcome along. If you've just joined me, it's Yasmeen here with you on BBC Three Counties Radio. Now, a man from Stevenage who struggled with a severe stutter for decades has overcome his demons and wants to inspire others to do the same. Rama Siva has interviewed 20 leaders and entrepreneurs to write a book aimed at inspiring people to break free of their self-imposed limitations and live life to the full. And I'm delighted to say he joins me in the studio now. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you, Jasmine.
So, first of all, how did you develop a stutter? How old were you?
My parents told me that I was about 3 to 4 years old, and when I started to speak, I stumbled over my words. And gradually, over time, I developed a stuttering habit.
Right.
This led to me being fearful of speaking in public, and when going to primary school, I remember quite clearly in class when I was there trying to read out aloud, because when you're at that age